Turn the engine off, now. The command lands hard under flashing red and blue lights, but the engine keeps running. Inside the car, the nurse grips the wheel, her jaw set, eyes forward. I didn't do anything wrong, she says, calm but unshaking. This should have been routine. It isn't. The officer steps closer, voice tighter. Step out of the vehicle. She doesn't move. Car's slow. Heads turn, the tension shifts. I'm a nurse, she says. Give me a reason. That line changes everything. Because now this isn't compliance, it's defiance. The officer pauses, then reaches for the handle. And in that moment, the stop is no longer under control. The officer's hand pauses on the door handle for just a second, not because he's unsure, but because he knows what comes next will change the situation. The engine is still running. The headlights cutting into the darkness ahead, and the red and blue lights continue to flash across the car's interior, reflecting off the windshield and into his eyes. Mom, I'm giving you a lawful order. Turn the engine off and step out of the vehicle. His tone is no longer calm in the way it was before. It's controlled but firm, carrying the weight of something that is no longer optional. Inside the car, the nurse doesn't move. Her grip on the steering wheel tightens slightly, not enough to show panic, but enough to show that she's holding her ground. Her breathing stays steady, her posture straight, and her eyes remain forward, refusing to shift toward him. I asked you for a reason, she says. You haven't given me one. That line hangs in the air, because it sounds logical, it sounds reasonable, but it doesn't change what's happening. The officer exhales slowly, stepping back half a step, creating just enough distance to reassess. He glances toward his patrol car for a brief moment, then back at her, recalculating the situation. You were stopped for a traffic violation, he says. That's your reason. But even as he says it, the tone suggests he knows that's not what she's asking. I didn't do anything wrong, she replies again, her voice slightly sharper now. Not louder, but more defined, like the words matter more this time. Cars pass by slowly, headlights sweeping across the scene, each one catching a glimpse of what's unfolding. Some drivers look longer than they should. Others slow down without realizing it, because something about this doesn't feel routine anymore. The officer steps forward again, this time more direct. Turn the vehicle off, he repeats. Still no movement. That's the moment the situation shifts again, because now the command has been repeated, and still ignored. He looks at her carefully, watching for any sudden movement, any signal that she might comply or resist further. His hand moves from the door handle to his radio. Dispatch, I need another unit, he says quietly. The words are calm, but they carry meaning. Inside the car, she hears it. And that's when something changes on her side too. Not physically, but mentally, because now she realizes this isn't staying small. I'm not refusing, she says quickly. I just need to understand why you're doing this. Her tone shifts slightly, trying to hold control, trying to slow things down before they move further. But it's too late for that. The officer's posture tightens again. You are refusing, he says, and you need to comply now. Another pause follows, longer this time. He's waiting, she's thinking. And in that silence, everything feels heavier, because this is the last moment where it could still go back, where one small decision changes everything. Her hand moves slightly, not toward the keys, toward her phone. And that's when the tension spikes. Mom, don't reach, the officer says immediately, his voice sharper now. She freezes for a second. Everything locks in place, because now, it's not just refusal, it's risk. And once risk enters the situation, everything changes. The second patrol car pulls up behind them, lights flashing, doubling the intensity of the scene. Another officer steps out, scanning quickly, taking in the positions, the tension, the movement that almost happened. What's going on? He asks. She's refusing to comply. The first officer replies without taking his eyes off her. Now it's two officers, one car, one decision that still hasn't been made, and the engine is still running. The second officer moves up along the passenger side, his eyes scanning her hands, her shoulders, every small shift that could change the situation. The flashing lights now bounce from both directions, filling the inside of the car with red and blue pulses that make everything feel sharper, louder, closer. Mom, keep your hands where we can see them, he says. Her hand freezes halfway to her phone, then slowly returns to the steering wheel. For a moment, no one moves. The air feels tight. This doesn't need to go any further, the first officer says, his voice controlled but firm. Turn the engine off and step out of the vehicle. This is it, the last clear chance. Inside the car, her jaw tightens slightly. You can see the calculation now, the shift from standing her ground to realizing how far this has gone. I'm not a threat, she says. I just want to understand why you stopped me. But that question doesn't carry the same weight anymore, because the situation has already moved past it. You were given a lawful order, the officer replies. You need to comply now. Another pause, longer than any before. Cars continue passing, but slower now. Some drivers glance twice. Others don't even try to hide it anymore. The scene has pulled attention in, the kind that comes when people sense something is about to break. The second officer steps slightly closer to the rear door, adjusting his position, closing off space without rushing. The first officer's hand hovers near the handle again, not grabbing it yet, but ready. This is the peak, the moment where everything balances between control and escalation. And then, finally, her hand moves, slowly this time, carefully, toward the ignition. The engine cuts, the sound disappears instantly, and with it, some of the tension drains out of the air, not all of it, but enough. Okay, she says quietly. I'm turning it off. The officers don't relax, not yet. Step out of the vehicle, the first officer repeats. This time, she listens. The door opens slowly. She steps out carefully, her movements controlled, her hands visible. No sudden motion, no resistance. But the shift has already happened, because this isn't the same situation anymore. This isn't a routine stop. This is a stop that went further than it should have. The officers guide her to the side, keeping distance, keeping control, their voices steady, their movements precise. No force is needed now, because the resistance is gone. And just like that, it's over. The second officer steps back slightly. The first one adjusts his stance, and the intensity that filled the space moments ago begins to fade. Cars start moving normally again. The road returns to what it was. The lights are still flashing, but the moment has passed. The nurse stands there, quieter now, her earlier confidence replaced by something else. Realization, because looking back, it didn't start here. It started earlier, with one decision: not to comply. Not to pause, not to recognize what the situation was becoming. It didn't feel serious at the time. It didn't feel dangerous. It felt like a question, a disagreement, a moment to push back. But that's how these situations change. Not with one big action. With small ones, a delayed response, a repeated refusal, a hand moving at the wrong time. Until suddenly, the situation isn't what it was anymore. And by then, you don't control how it ends. That's the part people miss. They think escalation comes from force, from shouting, from something obvious. But most of the time, it comes from hesitation, from thinking you still have time to figure it out, from not realizing the moment has already passed. Because in situations like this, control doesn't disappear all at once. It slips, and once it slips far enough, it doesn't come back the same way. This time, it stopped just before that point, but it got close, closer than it needed to, all from a moment that should have ended in seconds. A simple stop, a simple instruction, and one decision that almost turned it into something else entirely.